Well, thanks for joining us today. We're here to talk about careers and health and safety careers in particular. I've got a fantastic panel with me to talk about both their own careers, things they've learned about the health and safety profession, getting a start in the health and safety profession. And we're also joined by a recruiter who's known to many of you, and she's going to be giving us some practical tips about finding your next health and safety role, common pitfalls, and how to get a start in the industry. You know, it's very, very hard to get a start sometimes in any industry, especially when you're new and you lack that experience. But, you know, we've got three panelists here who've done that. I have to do that myself. And hopefully we'll be able to give you some positive tips. And we'll make a start, I think, by just going quickly around the virtual table. And what I should say is we're all working remotely. We're currently in the middle of the COVID crisis, so we're all home based. Sherman's joining us from the UAE as well. So, as I've said on a few of these other videos, if you hear dogs bark or doors slam or postman knocking on the door, please just bear with us. We're working with what we've got at the moment, and fingers crossed it'll be an enjoyable sort of 40-45 minutes. So, Robert, you're to the left of me on my virtual screen. Just want to do a very brief introduction about who you are and what your role is.
Yeah, so my name is Robert Jukes. I'm a HSE manager for Lyrical. SHP Rising Star for 2019, both manufacturing and UK. And yeah.
So Crystal, please.
Yep, Crystal Danbury, the safety director for Openreach. Yeah, basically look after every telegraph pole, green box, and 40,000 people.
Laura?
So hi, I'm Laura from HSE Recruitment. So as the name probably suggests, we recruit health, safety, environmental, and also fire professionals. So I've been doing this for, this is my 10th year. We work across the whole of the UK and internationally. We work across all sectors. And I'm really, really passionate about helping people progress their career, helping them to develop their soft skills as well as their technical ability. So hopefully I've picked up some good tips over the last that I can share.
No, fantastic. Looking to hear from Sherman, you?
Hi, I'm Sherman Shali. I work for, or I'm employed with Bilfinger, Tebodin, Middle East. I'm here in this part of the world for the past 15 years, handling different projects, different roles. Currently, as I told, we are focusing for the engineering consultant projects, where our main industry is oil and gas. So I take care for the overall HSEQ management system for the organization. So that's about me.
Hey, no, that's great. That's lovely. I mean, you've all got huge jobs and huge roles, actually. But Laura, it's a really odd question at the moment, bearing in mind that the entire world is in, it's upside down. What's the market like at the moment for health and safety roles? Are you still seeing there's some interest in recruitment?
Oh, there's definitely still stuff going on. Don't get me wrong, it is quieter than we would normally expect. April, May tends to be really, really busy because of new financial years and things like that. So it is a little bit more quiet than normal. But there is definitely lots going on there. If you think about the situation at the moment with COVID and, with the lockdown and the having to get people back into work, safety is actually a real priority for most companies at the moment. And it's not something that they can afford to let slide. So we're definitely seeing lots of people still recruiting. The smart companies are sort of getting ahead of it and making sure they're sort of getting the pick of people at the minute. But we're also seeing a lot of really good opportunities for CPD at the moment. So I think it's a great time for safety professionals to really be developing their skills and looking at what's out there and sort of planning their next couple of moves.
So what skills are typically employers looking for?
It obviously varies from client to client. We're massively dictated traditionally by the industry and by their sort of expectations of what a safety professional looks like. However, definitely over the past few years, we're really seeing a push towards the soft skills side of things and away from the technical. Having technical qualifications is never going to be a bad thing. And obviously you need to make sure that you know your stuff and you can prove that you know your stuff. But at the moment, having qualifications alone probably isn't going to be enough for you to make you stand out. That we've talked about this before, Matt, at various different events, but there is a lot of competition out there. You know, health and safety is really, really popular at the moment, and we've got thousands and thousands of people skilling themselves up every day. So it's massively important that you're focusing on things other than qualifications to make yourself stand out.
Right. Thanks, Robbie. You wanted to contribute there, I think.
Yeah, so one thing I've noticed is a lot of my contacts on LinkedIn are reaching out for advice to do with the pandemic, or they're reaching out if you know anyone for safety advisors. So I think we've actually seen a bit of a mini jobs boom almost, because there are companies that are panicking because they don't have quite the right person or quite the right number of people in place. So they're looking at expanding teams or putting more resources in place. So it's actually, sounds bad, but you know, if you're a HSE professional, there might actually be more opportunities now.
No, that's a good observation, actually. Well, Crystal, same question to you. I think you've got a team of around 100 people. Is there any sort of particular skill set that you look for within your, for example, would you be prepared to take somebody on who doesn't necessarily have the absolute experience within your industry, but shows the desire to work for Openreach? Would that be important?
I think that the core thing that matters to me, and actually some of the people over the last sort of 18 years that I've seen really excel, are the people that have the passion to look after the people in their care. And if you've ever sat across anybody, even if it's over a coffee, and they start to talk about really just caring about what they are doing for a living, it's those individuals you want in your team. I've seen some amazing promise from a completely different part of the business. No formal qualifications, but absolute drive to do the right thing and to take care of the people at the end of our processes and procedures. And he's coming into a senior role, and we'll just give him, we'll give him the opportunity to do the qualifications. But it's his drive and passion that's first and foremost for me.
Yeah, it's important. Sherman, we probably should bring you in here now. Why did you first decide that health and safety was a career for you, or was health and safety done to you? How did it work out for you?
See, I started my career like about 15 years ago as an estimation assistant, like, a person who do this admin kind of stuff. And I just happened to get an opportunity to be in the internal auditing role. As I always tell that, they pick whenever the organization asks or organize for such a training, they will see that who is the one who is on less demand. Okay. That time, yes, I was picked up like this. But anyway, I see that is the life-changing moment. It was an opportunity. So whoever listening out there, grab each and every opportunity, because it's going to change your tomorrows. Yeah. So I have been in this auditing field, and slowly I get the safety, the opportunity, the world opened in front of me. Was a great career. Me, basically a person who is very empathetic, and I strongly and deeply value relationships, humanities, and such kind of values. For me, I think it's a great to be here in this profession.
Crystal, you wanted to jump in there as well around.
I just wanted to pick up on your first point, Sherman. Absolutely right about, put your hand up, and don't think about what you've done before. Don't think about any of that stuff limiting you. And I think I mentioned this to you yesterday, Matthew, that I accidentally got my first job in safety. I was working in Domino's Pizza. I was 18 years old. I applied to be a lab hand, and they put my CV in the wrong pile. And if I'd seen, and this is where I say to every woman that I meet, if I had seen trainee nuclear site engineer, safety engineer, I never would have put my hand up. I worked in Domino's Pizza. I would have thought all men, and it was me, 62 men, absolutely doing an incredible job. So don't let anything limit you, not the sector, not the prejudgment on the gender bias, nothing, or your background. If it interests you, go for it. And like Sherman says, it will change your tomorrow.
That really is an important message, actually. And we've had a question from through our social media connections about being a woman in the profession. But I think generally, and I'm sure Laura's seen this time and time again, where women do not put themselves forward for whatever career, even within NEBOSH. A colleague of mine never went for a trainee developer role because she didn't feel that she hit all of the. But I said, but you're perfect for that role. So don't think you have to hit every single criteria. If you've got a lot to offer, you've got a lot to offer. And Crystal, now mid-30s and a director of a huge company. Incredible. We could probably pick up the question we were asked, actually, and it'd be interesting to see if there's differences both in the UK versus international roles. As an aspiring HSE professional, I'd like to ask the common challenges faced by a female in this industry. Laura, do you want to pick this up first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is actually one of the things I'm really passionate about. And I spoke at the Safety and Health Expo about this sort of topic. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago now, on women creating their own glass ceilings. Not to say that there aren't industries or companies that do have inherent biases. Of course, that is a thing, and it's something we do need to keep fighting against. But like you said, like Crystal said, putting self-limiting beliefs on yourself is a major factor in this. There was a study done by, I believe it was Cambridge University a few years ago, that looked at percentages of men and women applying for different jobs. And they found that men, as a rule, will apply for a role if they hit a minimum of sort of 50% of the criteria, whereas women won't apply unless they hit 95, 100%. They won't even put their hand up for something. So it's something I'm really passionate about. And this isn't just for women. This is across gender, across ethnicities, across sexual orientation. Don't let that limit your belief of what someone can do. Just put yourself forward for something and ask for promotions and ask for opportunities, rather than sort of sitting around and waiting.
I know something you're a big advocate for is about being your own brand as well, Laura. I have heard you speak about that in the past, and being a brand on things like LinkedIn and making yourself visible. How important is that for men as well?
For everyone. To me, this is the most important thing at the moment. And I know people get a little bit scared of it because social media is new and people aren't quite sure what to put out there and how to present themselves. But if we as safety professionals, we want the industry to be better, and we want to progress it, and we want to make it more positive, so you're not seeing all this, health and safety in the newspapers, we have to put ourselves out there. I've said to a few people previously when I've met them at events, if you don't see someone doing the things that you want to do or looking the way that you look, then you be that person. Go create that brand for yourself. As we said, the safety industry is really competitive. So most safety CVs look the same. You've got similar qualifications, you've got similar levels of experience. But if you then have a really strong personal brand and you are doing loads of CPD, you're at events, you're on webinars, you're writing blogs and articles on LinkedIn, you're interacting, you're showing us that you're engaged and you're passionate, you're going to just be miles ahead of everybody else that I'm looking at for a role. So yeah, hugely important at the moment, I would say.
Yeah, it's good advice. Sherman, I think we should probably fully address the question that was asked. I mean, working internationally, is there any particular challenges as a woman within the health and safety profession that you've come across?
Challenges, yes, it will be there, definitely. And it's not only gender, age, education, your background, so many factors. If you want to count the challenges, it will be there. But what I strongly believe that it's your attitude, it's your perception, how you deal with these challenges. For me personally, I don't even spare a chance to consider any of these things, because first of all, you have to be very firm with your approach, and you have to, if you have that clarity, if you have that passion, if you are fearless, and if you are not really, if you are selfless, and you will be bold enough, or you will have that courage to take decisions, and you will be standing up to share your opinion. You have to speak for yourself. So that is one thing which I felt or I experienced throughout my career, starting from 15 years back until now. I feel that if I am not there to speak for myself, no one is there to speak for me. So if I believe that things are right, because I'm dealing with people, it's about their life, it's about their health, and it's not a product, or it's not, it's for our employees, and it has an emotional values.
Yeah.
And I am a person who is emotionally connected also. So I always say that, we pray 5 times a day. So each time where we pray, we bow down and we keep our forehead to the ground. So where I see that, I keep my head down and my heart up. So sometimes it's in my profession, it's not always a logical thinking. You are logically might be a different correction, but emotionally, when you deal with the people, like, you sometimes have to think emotionally, think with your heart. For me, yes, I have faced challenges, but manageable challenges. Manageable.
Isn't it? Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
great. Robert, I think might be a good opportunity now to go to sort of basics. You're a young guy working in the industry, chopping through, doing really well. You recently got the accolade of, was it Young Professional? What was the actual award that you were?
SHP Rising Star and SHP Rising Star UK.
How did you get your start then in health and safety?
I actually got involved in health and safety from an accident. I actually had a hatch hit me on board one of the submarines that we were working on. It caused a slip disc in the back. Speaking to the health and safety advisor after the accident, I kind of developed a good relationship with him, got involved in a little bit of the health and safety aspects. Some of my role was involved in health and safety, and from there, that's kind of where I really decided that I wanted a career in health and safety, and really worked with the health safety advisor and his kind of team as well, because it wasn't just him, it was the entire team kind of took me on, and I was quite fortunate to get an internal placement working with them from that, which is fantastic. And I think I owe them a lot in terms of not only how they helped forge me as a health and safety professional, but also got their attitude and their approach really got me interested into it. One thing we're talking about is soft skills. And I think they really, helped drive the importance of soft skills and how to speak to people, how to engage to people. We mentioned it earlier about was, a lot of the people that I speak to in the past 12 months has been about soft skills, especially since winning the award. It's all been about improving the soft skills, looking for people with the right soft skills. And it's harder to teach soft skills than it is technical skills. Yeah. So if you can find someone which has the right soft skills, it's easier to teach technical skills.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I mean, Robert, one thing I know you ran a consultancy alongside the day job for a while. You feel like your entrepreneurial spirit has served you well within the day job as a safety practitioner, because as we've alluded to, it's more than, and actually I've talked to people about this a lot. We probably spend, well, you guys do, I don't do the role anymore, but you probably spend 10% of your time doing a safety function, and the rest of the time you're coaching, you're developing business cases, etc. Which of those soft skills do you draw on most often as a practitioner? Do you find to do well?
First off, for the entrepreneurial spirit, I'm always doing something outside my role, whether it be at the moment I'm doing a master's and diploma at the same time, before I did consultancy, and then obviously I'm involved in other industry initiatives. So I'm always a bit, I like to have a busy life, I suppose. But yeah, it definitely helps in understanding other business risks. You start respecting more the financial cost of things. It certainly got me to understand how to put things across financially to try and get the cost benefit analysis and try and understand where other people are coming from. And one of the things that I want to do eventually is an MBA potentially to understand that more and be able to apply that on a bigger scale. In terms of soft skills, I think it sounds simple, but just how you engage people, how you speak to people, I think that's the biggest one. I mean, sometimes people are having a bad day, they come to work, how you actually begin that conversation, if you're stopping and challenging someone, but you do it in a soft manner, it actually will probably have a more beneficial effect than, so hang on a second, you shouldn't be doing that, I don't think a hard approach, sometimes you need to do it, but I think generally if you can speak to people and engage them in a kind of almost as a friend, then you'll get a lot more out of them.
It's that situational leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
Direct action, but very often you can achieve more by taking different approaches. I mean, the same question to you, really, Crystal. Around you've gone from a boots on the ground safety role. When you first started out in your career, I think you described it to me. Running up and down ladders, and doing all that sort of a direct intervention type role. Through to now, where I imagine you have a significant budget. You have this large team. Where did you develop those other skills other than, the NEBOSH Health Safety Diploma gives you that technical background?
Yeah.
Or did you go to get the other skills that you need in order to be the fully formed practitioner that you've become?
So I actually think that the core skills that I put on every day were forged in my first role. Because, and very much to your point, Sherman, I am absolutely as empathic as they come. I am people first and I care genuinely. But I think what gives me the appetite, I think, to go out, to understand, to be curious, and also gives me the humility to never think that I'm the answer, that the answer is probably out in my workforce, right? I'm not a golden egg of answers. Is I understand what it feels like to be at the sharp end of risk. I understand what it feels like to have had processes and procedures built around me for the work that I do, but nobody asks about the practicality of what executing that job looks like. And so I always say that I dropped a video on LinkedIn last week about humility, empathy, and curiosity being the sort of bedrock of creating good, positive culture. And I think all of those things were forged in those very early days, where, you were having process created around you and nobody was talking to the person doing it. So my people skills comes from there, I think, was I know what it feels like to be that person. And even if you've been to university and you're thinking, right, well, I might be missing that connection, that empathic part, just go out and spend half a day with somebody. Go out and look at what work actually looks like. See the guy digging the hole, see the trouble with the kit, and you gain empathy through that. So I actually think the soft skills you learn daily, but mine were forged in the very early days.
I mean, we're fortunate in that we are confident people. We've been in roles for a long time that require us to be outspoken and to be public facing. Not everybody feels comfortable in that area or doing those, having those skills. Do you think they can be taught?
I think they can be taught. I mean, like you said, not everyone's is going to be completely comfortable with it all the time, but the way that we grow as professionals is to constantly challenge ourselves and push ourselves and try new things. I mean, public speaking is now a huge part of my role. In fact, my role is brand leader. So mostly what I do is go out and speak to people and share information. I didn't do that until 3 years ago. I'd never stood on a stage and spoken to people. But I took an opportunity that was put in front of me. Someone said, give it a go. I was terrified and I shook all the way through. But I did it and it sparked something in me. Right. Like I said, I'm not saying it is for everyone. Some people will never be comfortable, but you don't know unless you try things.
Yeah.
I think a huge thing is you've just got to grab opportunities and just give everything a whirl. You never know what's going to come out of it.
Sherman, you want to jump in? I know you do a little bit of speaking at events and seminars and things.
You need to explore your skills, like challenge your comfortable zones and move out, because I have been attended or participated in seminars. Initially I had that, oh my god, I have to go the whole men world, and you are the only female among like 200 300 employees down there, and then it might not be feeling comfortable. Yes, initially it is. You will have to compromise of a few of your, comfortable zones, as I tell. But the moment you step out, trust me, you are exploring a new world and you are going to polish your skill. It automatically comes out, speak from your heart. And yeah.
Thanks, Sherman. Robbie, you wanted to jump in there?
I think that passion for health and safety and, for people is something that, you want to find in health safety professionals. You want someone that cares and that is curious to go find out what's wrong, find out what needs to be done, and care. I think once someone stops caring or loses that passion within the industry, then I think you'll lose that natural drive. And I think the most important thing is having someone that has that drive. And if you have that drive, then it is something that will do you well within the industry.
Yeah, thanks. Crystal, I think you wanted to come in as well.
I was just talking just that part about comfort. And in terms of comfort, I think there are two different types. I think there is sort of ethical comfort. So if you're somewhere that jars with your values, you're somewhere that you don't align with what the organisation is trying to achieve, that's not a comfort barrier I don't think you should ever push through. I think you should be honest with yourself and about what your intention is, and be where aligns to you.
Yeah.
So you and your organisation have synergy. there is discomfort always about your comfort zone, right? This is your skill base. This is the new qualification, the public speaking and stuff. That's the stuff. 100% I would say to every single person, go and do it again and again and again and push, because what might be nerve-wracking today might be your core skill set and get you a job next year. And actually, as a woman that works at Openreach, Katie Milligan, and she's one of the MDs here, so inspiring. And I said to her one day, how do you take to stage with all these, these really sort of powerful men, and how do you just own it? And she just said to me, some days I have to fake it at the beginning, and I have to just go on, and I have to say inside that I'm okay before I actually feel okay. And so even at her level, nobody walks on stage feeling completely cool about it. I'm sure not even Steve Jobs ever went on the stage as Apple feeling amazing. So sometimes you have to sort of fake it before you make it in terms of confidence, but put yourself in that position, go outside that comfort zone, because it might be your core skill set and you don't know.
Yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway. Is that what they say?
All the great things are on the other side of fear.
Yeah. Well, we should probably cover some absolute basics then when it comes to health and safety careers. This is a question for you, Laura. I'm afraid I'm going to ask you after the boring question about CVs, do's and don'ts. I mean, we still get CVs throughs at NEBOSH, and sometimes you look at them and you think, wow, there's 10 pages of content here and it looks beautiful, and but my God, who's got time to read this? And but very often there must be some very obvious tips when it comes to CVs, because people are still getting them wrong. So
absolutely, there's loads of really, really good tips, and I could probably talk about this for hours, so I'll try and condense it into some useful sort of tidbits. The first one is the old myth that a CV's only got to be 2 pages, and anything more than that is a waste. That's not true. If it's relevant, it can be on there. And if your CV is 10 pages and it's 10 pages of relevant information, that's fine. Yeah. But what people tend to do is have a 10-page CV and 9 pages of it I don't need.
Yeah.
So go over your CV and just make sure it's relevant, it's information I need to know. The second sort of pitfall that people tend to fall into is just making their CV really, really generic. Like I said, a lot of safety roles on the day-to-day, the face of it, they are really similar. So if you just say, I worked at this company for 4 years and I did audits, inspections, toolbox tours, that doesn't tell me anything about you. I expect as a safety professional that you will be doing that. What I need to know is how did you inspire people? Where was the company when you joined? What was the journey you took them on? How did you get them there? That's the stuff that's interesting to me. I expect you to do the basics. That's kind of a given. So when you're looking at your CV, try and condense it to things you're actually really proud of. So your achievements, is that like reduction in LTIs, or, is that insurance savings, or whatever it is, that's the information that's really, really pertinent. And then the third top tip probably is, if you're not going through a recruiter and you're applying to someone directly, you have to be really obvious about what it is you do. Because traditionally what will happen when you apply to a company directly is your CV will hit HR, and what they do is they're just tick boxing. So they'll go through and say, right, so they wanted someone with NEBOSH certificate. Has this person got it? Yes or no? They wanted someone with experience in FMCG. Has this person got it? Yes or no? So if your CV doesn't tell me really obviously what you've been doing, you could very easily get missed. A few years ago, I was looking for someone to do DSE assessments, just a simple little contract project. And I had hundreds and hundreds of people apply. And I know, hand on my heart, all of them could do that job. Because I know you all do DSE assessments, you could do it in your sleep, but probably 3 people actually had the words DSE in their CV. So if you're applying for a job directly, look at the job description and make sure those keywords are in your CV, because that's what they're going to look for.
No, that's good advice. I mean, the other thing, from talking from a recruiter's perspective, that I had never considered before, Laura, and this only came out from a conversation you and I had last week. Prior to joining NEBOSH, my 2 previous roles were through recruitment agencies, and I've spoken to colleagues about go through recruiters. They've got a good selection of jobs, and then they said, oh well, they lose interest. And I was explaining to Laura, I said, what we got to do to keep you guys interested. And Laura pointed out that recruiters are working for their client, they're not working necessarily for us as practitioners. And that was a bit of a moment for me, really. So anything we can do to make your lives easier as well when we're looking for work is going to be of benefit, isn't it? So when you're doing your sorts, you can go, yeah, Robert's perfect for this job, or Crystal's perfect for this job, Sherman.
Absolutely, and that's another reason I'm so passionate about the branding side of things and really creating some buzz around yourself, because the unfortunate truth is we do work for the clients. They're the ones that pay the bills at the end of the day. So I would love to spend 3 hours talking to every single safety professional, but I probably can't. So what I do is I go for the people that excite me. Like Crystal said, you're looking for passion, you're looking for people that are engaging. So the more obvious you can make that to me, the more I'm going to engage with you, the more I'm going to work with you. Same as, doing safety in your role. You've got to grab our attention. You've got to prove that you are different and you're the person I should be speaking to all the time.
Robert, I think you wanted to contribute there.
Yeah, so I think there's two things I want to say. The first one is on personal branding. I think that's massive. I think, LinkedIn, if you're going for a role or anything like that, if you've got content on LinkedIn where you're getting across them soft skills, getting across that knowledge, and you can see that, then it's going to sell you more before you even walk into an interview. Because I guarantee most people that are recruiting for a job will have looked for you on some kind of form of social media. So if you've got all that there, then it helps, and you're involved in podcasts, you're involved in publications, and you've got that real interest that you're getting across to people, then that will definitely help that as well. And I think the second thing is, we mentioned about experience within industries. Don't be afraid to get in touch with companies if you're just starting out and ask for some experience. I think more health-safety professionals you reach out to will be more than happy to help you in any way, whether it be from mentoring through to experience, through to just problem solving. You'll guarantee that we've all been in that situation. And the thing about the health safety industry is most people I've spoken to are really happy to get involved and help. So just reach out to them. Yeah.
No, that's great. Laura, you wanted to come back to Robert?
Yeah, Rob, I love you mentioned mentoring there, because I think that's something that people really don't take advantage of enough in this industry. There are so many great professionals out there that have all this knowledge. Like you said, tapping into them is a great idea when you're starting out. There are loads of different mentoring schemes out there. I think you've had some personal experience of it, haven't you, Rob, doing some mentoring?
Yeah, I've actually got 5 mentors at the moment. I just reach out. I'm involved in both the IOSH and the IRS mentoring schemes and the Safety for Good mentoring schemes. And I've just through asking people as well, through the SHP Rise to Star. There's 2 people that I really got in contact from. That was a guy called Stu Pollard and Hugh Maxwell, and that just came through the SHP Rise to Star. And the amount of advice that they've given me has just been phenomenal, from every day-to-day stuff through to career progression kind of thing, through to development, through to just general lifestyle balance as well. One thing that Hugh Maxwell has been fantastic with is telling me to consider your actual wider lifestyle and how everything ties in and whatnot.
That's great. If anybody's listening to this and they're not yet part of the alumni, we do have an online WhatsApp group where lots of information and support is shared as well within NEBOSH. The last thing I thought might be quite good fun to do was to ask some typical interview questions to our panelists, and Laura can sit in judgment in the corner and jump in it. So I'm going to ask Robert, Sherman, and Crystal in turn. These questions were ones I pulled off randomly from a list that was on LinkedIn of that Glassdoor put together around typical interview questions. I'll pick on Sherman first.
Just a second. Yeah, I'm ready.
So Sherman, okay. Why should I hire you?
Good question. Okay, having no background about what is the entity, what is the job role, it's a challenging question now for me. Okay, so I'll make it too generic, but I'll say that, okay, if you want someone who has a high integrity, who works on values and ethics, and who will not compromise 100% on safety or the assigned responsibilities, who does the job in a religious manner, in that serious manner, you have to hire me.
You get the job. Crystal, one for you then. What would your direct reports say about you?
Oh God. I literally, I had some third-hand feedback about what some of my direct reports have said. Actually, it's really interesting. I'm quite empathic, so I'm people-driven, and I believe in taking care of my people so they can take care of their people. So what they would say to me about is I am incredibly dedicated to my profession and I really care, and it's not driven by anything else other than I want everyone to go home. But also they would say I care about them. I ask them about their family, I ask them about how things are going for them, and I'm real with them. And also I don't pretend that I'm infallible either. So one of my direct reports recently was having a real struggle, and I asked him how he was, and I read him in a meeting and just read he wasn't right. And so I went in and sort of mentally supported him, held him up. And one of my other direct reports said, that woman can read people like a book. Can you imagine what it's like to be married to her? So care, empathy driven, dedicated and real and authentic, and cares about my people as well as the collective people.
I know, that's fantastic. What a great response. I'm married to a therapist actually, and that's so yeah, it's not easy, trust me. Robert, then, question for you. How do you handle pressure?
I think I put more in. I think two of my personal values are attitude and hard work. So I think the more the pressure kind of cranks up, the more hard work I put in, the more I try to make sure I've got the right attitude. So for me, I think the more the pressure comes on, the more I actually thrive on it. I think I find myself putting in more hours. I like to win. I don't like to lose. So I think the more stuff comes up, I like to make sure that we do things in the right manner. And I like to make sure that I actually get the result I want. So a bit of a bad thing for my personal life in that I, probably put more effort in kind of thing. But I think it obviously pays off in your professional life and getting the results that you want.
Sherman, last question for you then, and then we can go back to Laura and see what she thinks of these responses. What are the two things that your former manager would like you to improve on?
Oh, that's a tricky question. Laura, I hope she'll be taking a eager note on this. Okay, so I'm a perfectionist. And I'm I always spend time, or if for anything, I look for, even for the cosmetic issues to the detailing or the content wise. So I always look for the perfection side of it. I mean, I don't say that you should not be, but I think sometimes like you don't need to be look for that sort of perfection. So that is one thing. And maybe I can say the other thing is empathy or emotional things which strongly keep me like a kind of less flexibility on the decision. So like the person who has to be convinced, or they find it hard for me to change my decision, because I strongly consider all these values of the people. So that's two things. But however, I think you should have a right balance on this.
I think what you did was you turned a negative into a positive there. We saw what you did.
It's the trick of the interview trade.
Bristol, I think it's your last one then. What motivates you?
Oh, the people I look after. Absolutely. And I think, I've mentioned to you before that in my first week in any position, I spend my time meeting my people and the people that work for me, but then spread throughout any time that I am anywhere, you will find me with my out of office on, going out and working with the people doing the end job. And just, it motivates me. Let's make it better. Let's make it simple. Let's make you getting home the bare minimum, right? So absolutely, the people I look after is my sole motivation.
Fantastic. And Rob, your last one is, what's been your biggest mistake?
Oh well, it's a tough one, that, isn't it? Yeah, I think work-life balance is probably my biggest mistakes in the past. I think doing a diploma and a master's at the same time, as well as working full-time and everything else, it's probably personal life probably had a few issues, but it's actually been a blessing in disguise, because they've both actually complemented each other quite well. So it wasn't the best decision, but professional wise, it's probably got me where I wanted to be.
Fantastic. Again, turning a negative into a positive. That's what we like. Crystal, I think you wanted to quickly jump in there.
Yeah, just really, really young. I went for a promotion job and they asked me that exact question. I was about 19 and I was so scared that it would cost me the job to say something that I got wrong. And I ended up saying, I can't think of anything. And my feedback after the interview when I didn't get the promotion was, if you can't see the error, it means you're not learning. So number one, I think it's a terrible question to ask anybody, right? In an interview, but don't be afraid, because the key thing from this is A, that you can be humble and you can say that you don't know everything, and B, you can demonstrate how you've learned from a mistake. So at the beginning of your career, it can feel like a dicey question. Be brave, lean in and demonstrate your learning.
No, that's great. And I should say, Crystal, don't blame me for the questions. I just read them. Terrible. Laura,
No,
what do you think of those responses then? As a recruiter, did you think they were that, you know, is there any you know, we've been a bit flippant there really, but is there any sort of takeaways? I think the point Crystal just raised was great actually.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
and be honest.
All were really, really good answers. The key thing in an interview is they don't want you to just answer the question. They want you to prove the answer to the question. So one of the things that Crystal did that was really good in the first question you asked her about what would her direct reports say about her, is she said, oh, they'd probably say this, and then she gave an example. Of why, and sort of backed it up. That's massively what we're looking for traditionally. You know, if I'm asking you a question, I don't want you to just say, yeah, I can do that. I want you to prove to me that you can do that. So if someone's asking you, you know, have you ever dealt with, you know, difficult people on site that don't want to do what you want them to do? You don't just say, yes, I have. You then back up and say, well, actually, when I was at such and such company, this was the situation. This is how I dealt with it. This is where I got to with that person. And that shows the journey and the growth. The other thing massively, I completely agree. Don't be scared to bring up something negative. That's a huge, huge thing for me. I am always really, really impressed by people that can say, well, do you know what? I have dealt with that situation and I probably didn't deal with it right. But what I learned from that is this, and going forward, this is how I would deal with that situation. As Crystal said, that shows huge personal growth. We're looking for people that can identify what they're good at, but also what they're not so good at. You know, that really is a big factor for us. But yeah, all great answers. But the key things to remember is, turn those negatives into positives. Give examples. Don't be scared to talk about getting it wrong, but tell us how you would get it right.
Rob, I think last comment from you.
Yes. So we'll talk about I just want to talk about self-reflection. At the end of every day, I kind of reflect back on how my day has been. You know, what I've kind of failed on, what I've went wrong, and I think every day there's 2 or 3 things that I can pick out that I think, I could have done that better. That didn't have the result that I wanted. And I think that's something I'd recommend anyone just reflect over your day, look at the mistakes, and you know, something that might be a small mistake. It could actually be an area that you identify for improvement, and that's what I try to do and try to then take up with my mentors to try and improve on. And it's part of that growth mindset. And I think I think most people have heard the phrase growth mindset, but when you actually start going down that path and start developing that, it is fantastic, and the returns you see from the growth is just fantastic.
No, thanks, Rob.
In terms of what Laura was saying about not being scared, I would say one of the really key things that I do going for any job, my key prep is to drill that job description, drill that advert, and to write down next to all the examples I can think of, bring all my experience to the forefront of my mind, and not practice my answer because I want my delivery to be authentic, but actually remind yourself of the journey that you've been on, and remind yourself, and actually the best reactions I ever get in an interview is when someone says, tell me about a time that you've done X and Y, and I can say, well, I've got 3 examples. Do you want this one, or this one? And they're like, oh, the middle one. But we can talk about something that matters to them. The examples I think are, and in terms of interviewing people, it just, you know, it goes so far beyond yes. We already know that there's a yes in the box, otherwise your CV wouldn't be in the interview pile. Yes. So yeah, definitely.
Crystal, would you like a job in recruitment?
Sherman, last point from you for me then. I must wrap up this interview. I know we could go on for so much longer, but I'm mindful of time. Sherman, please.
Yeah, I just want to add on to Crystal's note, like, yes, see, when you are going for an interview, like, you have an opportunity to select your employer. So
Yes.
think in that perspective also, like, why should you choose your employer? Because you have to spend your majority of your work daytime with your employer. So that means a true partnership is required anywhere in any matter, so that you have an opportunity to have that value from your side, so that you can also ask them. Similar, you should ask whatever you have to ask them, like before Crystal was telling, like, you can compromise your comfort zones. So your ethical values, your principles, is it matching with there or not? Especially in your profession in HAC, or a safety professional, it's very, very important. It has a paramount of importance to deliver your results. So that's just want to add on to this point.
Thanks, Sherman. Go on, Laura. I know you have
one last very quick
point. Go for it.
Yeah, based on what Sherman was just saying about, you have the opportunity to interview them and choose your employer. This coronavirus situation at the moment, this is going to be a really big thing in terms of interview questions moving forward. And I would definitely recommend that if you are going forward for a job now, you ask them how they handled this situation.
Right.
What did they do to their staff? How did they handle social distancing? What did they do to look after employees? Because that will tell you reams about who they are as a company and whether they actually do believe their values or not. So that would just be the final little tip there.
Yeah, great. Well, I think you all summed it all. Well, summarised the conversation there brilliantly, actually, with some final tips. And that's an interesting point Laura raised there as well, about helping to decide what type of company you want to work for and who you're prepared to work for. So we'll have to bring it to a close there. I'd like to thank my panelists who joined me today, Rob, Crystal, Laura and Sherman. Thank you for taking the time. I know we're all so busy in light of the COVID crisis and everything that's going on. Hopefully those of you taking the time to sit through this webinar have enjoyed it. Please do get in touch with us on LinkedIn or on social media. I know my fellow panelists here are all very active, so I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you LinkedIn. And I hope to see you all in person sometime soon. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.